Hello, BookTube. Well, as you can see, I once again have a guest. This is David Murphy.
Hi, BookTube.
Has a BookTube channel. You have a couple of videos up on your channel. Had a channel for a long time. Was a deep communal embarrassment. Nuked that channel. Was gone for a while. Came back, made a couple more videos. He is visiting here in Boston. He is visiting Hyde Cottage for a good long time. And no sooner did we meet each other than we went out book hunting. That is going to be a pattern you're going to see repeated all week long. And we got a lot of books.
This is the first of many. Yeah.
So how are we going to do this? I got twice as many books because I found mass market paperbacks and just pigged out. But
so do we want to start with you because you have so many, or are you just going to do them in bunches?
Well, I'll definitely do them in bunches, so we'll be here all day. I got a lot of mass market paperbacks, and also, unlike David, I got a lot of interesting books. So there's going to be a little bit. It's going to be a little lopsided here. Maybe we should. Yeah, there you go.
I'll start
right there on top.
Only up from here. Do we say where we went?
Oh, right. We went to two places. The Used Book Superstore in Burlington, Massachusetts, which is incredible. I love that place more the more we go. It's just an open warehouse. Just a big open warehouse. No walls, no partitions of any kind. And just full of books. And today, because we went on a weekend, it was full of people as well. Just a lot of it is cheap. You have to be up with the eye candy up by the registers to spend money. A lot of the books are cheap, but mixed in with every genre, in history, in biography, in science fiction, are basically new releases that are priced accordingly. So it works perfectly as a combination of both those things.
You can spend what you want there, yeah.
It was amazing. We went there, and we went to a thrift store called Savers, which is a chain here in New England. And I think all along the eastern seacoast.
They have them in Minnesota, too.
They have them in Minnesota. All right, they're nationwide then. I mixed my Saver books in with mine, so I won't be doing a separate haul. I just mixed them. I didn't get many books at Savers. I got a lot of other things. They were a general thrift store, whereas the Used Book Superstore is just books. Although you can get CDs there. Didn't I see?
Oh, yeah.
DVD cases as well.
CDs, there was some vinyl, yeah.
But anyway, that's where we went.
We've been there before. We went there last time, too.
First stop of many. We're doing a lot of book hunting this week.
Okay, so as we were, I got the conservative tradition in American thought here, and I haven't seen this volume before.
Who is in there? It's an anthology, I assume.
Yeah, it's by...
Oh, it's just a
subject.
study?
Yeah, well, there's different authors covering each area. So there's the colonial experience, and they have a few people covering that going on. There's states' rights and slavery, social Darwinism, and then it ends with opposition to the welfare state and then conservatism since World War II, and that covers Taft, Rossiter, Buckley,
that has to be...
Oh, Senator.
Senator. That has to be Mr. Republican. It wouldn't be my Taft, it would be his son. His loser son.
And there's always volumes like this being published, but this one I haven't seen before, so I was glad to find it. I have a ton at home. I have a bookcase at home, which is mostly just politics, and I have several shelves of just books on conservatism, on liberalism, and so on. So
it's known colloquially in your neighborhood as the date killer. That particular bookcase is called the date killer. That's the one and done bookcase. It's that I always
if they ever get that far.
I think of the joke you made on your channel once years ago, where I know my own mind. I know what I'm interested in, but a stranger coming into the room and seeing 10 books with a swastika on the side, it gives the wrong impression. I'm interested in World War II, but you don't want to be yelling that to someone as they're running away.
I've had that before. If you walk into my apartment, the first bookcase you'll see on the back wall is biography, but there's 4 on Stalin, 3 on Hitler, and I'm like, oh boy.
Well, I don't know how I'm going to group mine. I should do some groups of mine. All right, well, we can start. I found a lot of science fiction and fantasy in mass market paperback. It was like the Used Book Superstore knew that Michael K. Vaughan has just started a new BookTube event called Rocket Summer of vintage science fiction. There was a ton there. I only got a small fraction. And I got a lot of fantasy as well, and stuff that straddles the two. As long as we're talking about straddling, we might as well bring up Philippe Jose Farmer. I found a bunch of his stuff. I found Two Hawks from Earth with this classic Frank Frazetta cover. But Also, he did a series book called The World of Tears. He was very fond of portly, sedentary writer types walking through a wardrobe or a closet, suddenly walking out rippling with Schwarzenegger's tight muscles and cavorting around naked in fantasy worlds. He was fond of that, and he did a series called World of Tears that I kind of sort of like. He's done a couple of series that I like better, but it's 5 books, and I found 4 today, which is maddening. If I don't find the one I'm missing, which one am I missing? 1, 2, 5, 3. I'm missing 4. I found all of these with these great old. I say these are Frank Frazetta covers. Of course, these are Boris Vallejo covers. It's just that if I don't tease J. Scott Phillips once a day, I don't feel regular. But these are great. The artwork on these is great. This one has a misprint. That's not you dropping acid. This is just, it's misprinted. So the color stamps are off by just a bit. I'm missing one of the World of Tear books, but my God, if I can't find it this week,
you won't.
I won't find it at all.
It's not in New England.
I can't remember if actually Mark Richardson or maybe Michael K. Vaughan himself would be able to remind me whether or not the Science Fiction Book Club ever did The World of Tears. I want to remember that they did them in 2 volumes, which would mean you'd be getting only 2 of these great covers instead of 5. But it's fantasy. It doesn't technically count for engines or for Rocket Summer, but I got them anyway because they were right in front of me when we walked in. Absolutely hilarious when we walked into the place. Because there was this cart right there. The first thing you see, just a cart of vintage science fiction. With the whole rest of the store, he went right by it. So he's rejoicing in his mind, saying, "Oh, the history of biography is mine," because he is stuck there. I was stuck there. I was happy to be stuck there. But let's.
I guess I'll go to some mass. I did get a few mass markets, not many. These both are World War II. This is Battle: The Story of the Bulge by John Toland. The only thing I've read by Toland is his book on Pearl Harbor, and so this will be interesting.
He's really good. He's forgotten, but he's really good.
Forgotten, yeah.
He doesn't have the weird afterlife that Cornelius Ryan does. I don't know what explains that. Cornelius Ryan is in the Library of America, and John Toland should be, and he never will be.
And then I have The Dam Busters by Paul Brickhill, who I'm not at all familiar with. I have read James Holland's book on the Dams raid, and then also Max Hastings.
Is that a photo?
Both of which
on the cover?
Are great. Yeah, it must be.
It is, yeah.
Both of which are great volumes. And those are 2 books that are interesting to read side by side because they come to different conclusions of whether or not the Dams raids were worth it. So I don't know. I don't have huge expectations for this, but because I've never heard of it. But either way, I'll try it. It's a short little thing.
Well, I could do another grouping. I got some history. I found a copy of 1066 by David Howarth. Very thin work of history that I love. I give this copy away all the time. I wasn't sure off the top of my head if it actually is here on the shelf behind us. It might be, but I wasn't on a guess. I wasn't going to skip it. And then I found a trade paperback of Peter Frankopan's Silk Roads because I read this and liked it when it came out, as everybody else in the world did. Then I got rid of the copy that I got from the publisher, and I got his next book, the one after this, which is a big world history. And I thought that was deeply impressive. I loved it. And it sort of put it in my mind, if you can find a cheap copy of this thing, you can definitely get it. And then, I've got a lot of books, so I'll just do all my nonfiction. I found this, a great narrative history of the history of soccer around the world, what it means in all kinds of different national traditions. The Ball is Round. I had this copy years and years ago, and got rid of it. I sent it to one of you. And have never seen it in the wild since, so I was overjoyed. And then the last 2 things here that I will mention are Pimlico trade paperbacks. I love them. There's a bunch of them in this room right behind us. And I found 2 today, 2 biographies that are Pimlico trade paperbacks. 2 things that I've never seen before. They were $1 a piece. A lot of stuff at the used book superstore was $1. And my mind frame going in was, if I would get it at the Brattle for $1, then I will get it there for $1. I found a biography of Augusta Lee. You never see this, never at all. I don't think I've ever read this. And I found also a biography of Robert Burns, the Bard. So both of these in these Pimlico trade paperbacks. All of you in the UK, you're spoiled because they're all over your used bookstores, but I don't see them, and I love the editorial choices. So there you go. A little blast of interesting stuff before we move back. Oh no! Oh my God! Yeah. Oh.
So next here I have some Norton Critical editions. I don't read as much fiction as a lot of other people on BookTube do, but I do have a healthy shelf, 2 healthy bookcases of classics, and I like to go to Norton Critical editions, and then also, as we'll see, Viking Portable editions. I find them really reliable. I like getting selections of an author, and I like having a good critical apparatus. So I grabbed these up, and I had to leave some. As always, these get used in schools, so I had to ditch a few for writing and highlighting. But these are in really good shape. So I have Thomas Hardy, The Mayor of Casterbridge here.
Those are all new.
Never read this. Yeah, these are the newer ones as well. I didn't grab any of the older ones, so I can't show what those look like, but I'm sure everyone has seen them before. And then The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, which I reread recently, and I think I may do a read-through of Mark Twain. I've mostly read his nonfiction, not his fiction, so I like to go through a lot more, so I grabbed that up. And then also Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, which I haven't read in years and years, and this came up in something else I was reading on the plane here, actually, so I thought maybe if I saw a copy, I would grab one and reread it.
Does it say on the back, everyone who's a Shelley fan is going to want to know which one it is? You got to ask yourself.
This is the 1818.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Huck Finn is the book of the moment right now because of the new Percival Everett. All sorts of literary.
Did you get to that yet? You were saying
I did, yes.
Putting it off.
But I need to. I finally got to it. I did it once, but I need to do it again. I need to go at it again. It did not disappoint.
Oh, good.
It is a serious, serious book. I did not disappoint at all. I was worried that it might, but no. Well, I should do another thematic block of some kind. So should I do a thematic block? Who else do I have here? Oh, well, okay, yes. I had all those farmer books, but there was another science fiction author that I love that I found a lot of there. I actually left some behind. I don't know what I was thinking. I had a car. I had access to a car. I don't know what I was thinking leaving anything behind. But the other author is science fiction, John Brunner. And Farmer won't fit for Rocket Summer, but Brunner will. I found, from this day forward, I found a lot of his buy stuff. Everybody remembers his great books, The Sheep Look Up, or Zanzibar Station, or this one, Shockwave Rider. But people don't remember how much other stuff he wrote. It just never stopped. The Wrong End of Time. A lot of these things oh, wait, you're not John Brunner, but you are. Look at this cover. Look at that. Look at that Darrell K. Sweet. Is that Darrell K. Sweet? Where the scientists have sent someone into that box, and it's a quasi-simian is coming out the other side. So I found a bunch of Brunner. I could kick myself. I don't know. We have such a crowded itinerary. I don't know if we're going to get back to the used book superstore this week. It'd be great if we did. It's not far away.
No, it's not that bad.
Yeah. I kicked myself that I didn't get everything by Brunner, everything by Farmer. There was everything by Joe Clayton, everything by Lynn Carter. Oh my God, tons of stuff that I just left behind. The only other thing I can do for this batch here was just stuck in here, which is Colin Cap, the Chaos Weapon. No idea why I grabbed this. Pretty sure this is 80s, so this won't even work for, 77. That's still too late for Rocket Summer, but I don't think I've ever read it. An old Del Rey mass market paperback science fiction work that I've never read. I'm certainly going to grab it. Oh my God. I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah, I don't know how to segue here at all.
No, there isn't a segue.
This is the history of political philosophy. This is Leo Strauss and Joseph Cropsey. This is actually gets used as a textbook. I don't know if it ever went past the 3rd edition, which this is in. I haven't read this through all the way, but when I was in college, there was a copy in the library, and I went to it all the time. Of course, I think most people who are interested in political philosophy will know Leo Strauss. I got into reading him a little bit in college. Not a little bit, quite a bit. If I was in college, yeah.
Just found that at the used
book in perfect condition. And I was worried it was going to have writing in it because, like I said, this gets used as a textbook. So this would be great. And I've been reading quite a bit of intellectual history recently. So it's good timing. Political intellectual history.
Yes. Yes, because intellectual history had a flicker of interest, and you saw that. I had to just stamp it out right away.
I found a really nice box set a couple months ago of The Wisdom of Conservatism, which you never see, so I was reading that, and it just...
Okay. How about we go with UK thrillers? I can do a block of UK thrillers. I found... one of them was for March Mystery Madness. Because for March Mystery Madness, I'm reading the 9th book in any series that I come across. So I saw a bunch of these things. I thought, what are the chances that the 9th book in this series will be there? And it was. So the 9th, this is by Stuart McBride. I don't think I've ever read this author. This is UK trade paperback, so he might not have an American publisher. But this is The Missing and the Dead in these big, wonderfully sturdy UK paperbacks that I love so much. And this is number 9 in the series. But just to make sure that I like him, or in case I do, I got another one of his. There was one other, The Coffin Maker's Garden. So I got another one of those. And then this thing, this is, you in the UK, do you know this? Duncan Falconer? It's just very He-Man-ish type action. When I went to the book barn, when I went to the used book superstore last time with you, or maybe with Michael K. Vaughan, there were a bunch of these things here. You see other covers there. There were a bunch of these things there, but they were in just a normal part of the bookstore. This was $1. And I didn't know anything about them, and a lot of times these things are very boring, so I didn't take a chance on it then. Then one of them was there at the shop for $1 today, so I grabbed it. We'll see. I'm sure that it's not number 9 in the series, and it's not mystery anyway. It's except how many bullets can you fire in 1 second. So that's your.
Okay.
Oh, the classical world.
Yes.
Oh, very nice.
So I got the portable Roman reader, this Viking portable edition. I have the portable Greek reader, which is an interesting little volume. So I had to grab this.
You didn't have this?
I didn't have this, no. Which is surprising, too, because I have a lot of these. There's no point, I think, in trying to collect all of these in one format, because Viking portables have gone through so many different incantations. There's the newer ones that are larger paperbacks. There's the originals. I think these started during World War II, right?
Yeah, shortly after. I don't actually know.
But these are the ones I like. I think these are sort of published in the middle between those two with the picture. I tend to like those volumes, but I
bought a copy of that in a used bookstore in Rhode Island once, years and years ago, and when I was at the counter, the guy behind the counter was one of those windy, pretentious used bookstore people, and he held it up and said, "Ah, yes, the 6 Caesars." I thought, even if you knew what you were talking about, you still don't know what you're talking about. It's the 12 Caesars. It's not the 6 Caesars. What is this?
Halfway there, yeah.
Look at this, though.
And then
this has no writing in it?
Classical literature here. I love these Norton
the
volumes,
Norton books
especially.
are great.
They're so great. And that's what, Bernard Knox, too, obviously, but that's what drew it to me at first. I have several of these at home, and I dip in and out of them. So now I have a new one to go to from time to time.
I don't have that volume, and that's the price I pay.
I'm putting it way over here.
The price I pay. I was snagged by the science fiction right at the beginning. Might as well look at some of those. Look at some of those here. The other day at the Brattle, I found The Mercenary by Jerry Pournelle and showed it to you. I hauled it on the Brattle. And at the time, I mentioned that I didn't see any of his other stuff. And the one book I mentioned was West of Honor. I found that today. So I'm not a huge fan of Jerry Pournelle, but if I'm going to have The Mercenary, I want his other thing. Then Gordon Dixon. Usually not a fan of Gordon Dixon except for some of the Dorsai books, but I found his big book, Time Storm, with this utterly unmistakable cover. I had this once upon a time. I bought it when it first came out, 1979. Okay, I've read this, and I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking that time is the key factor. As to whether or not I will like it. I found Fred Pohl's classic book Gateway, probably the thing he's best known for. This is in the science fiction, those trade paperback UK science fiction classic masterworks things. And they make the wise decision to use this original cover. You really can't do better than this. But they ginned it up and weirded up the color frame and whatnot. I have it as an ebook, but I got it as a mass market, and then I can finish up with I found two A.E. Van Vogt, there was a ton of A.E. Van Vogt there. I should have got it all. When am I ever going to see these things again? I should have got it all. I found The Children of Tomorrow and Slan, probably his most effective book, certainly his most famous book. I found both of those, left behind a whole bunch of others. Maybe we'll go back. It's not impossible. The whole week in front of us.
Yeah, maybe we'll see more also at the other bookstores.
Well, it's true.
Yeah, it's... I'll just do one here. This, again, onto something completely different, is Jewish Literacy, the most important things to know about the Jewish religion, its people, and its history, by Rabbi Joseph Telushkin. I hope I'm saying that right. I've seen this referenced a million times in things that I've read.
He's great.
And I've never... Okay, good. And I've never actually grabbed a copy, so I saw it sitting there, and I had to download them up. This doesn't have any writing in it either. There was another volume of this, and that did have writing in it.
You got a lot of books that were just prime candidates for... That's great that you found them all clean.
Yeah, and this is just exactly what it says it is. Most important things to know about the Jewish religion, its people and history. So there's a section on the Holocaust and things like that. So
all of those Norton criticals with no writing in them.
None.
A Norton book, the book of classical literature with no writing in it. Amazing. What else do I have here? I've got a lot. Okay, well, I'm kind of catching up to you. Yes? No?
Yeah, we're doing a little better.
Robert Heinlein. As long as we're talking science fiction, I might as well stick with it. I found a trade paperback of this expanded universe, collection of his writings and whatnots. Not necessarily just short stories, but all sorts of nonfiction as well. Occasional period piece and whatnot. I found a copy of this at the Brattle, was it months ago? It was a big trade paperback. I was very happy. This is the copy that I was actually remembering when I found that trade paperback. But I was okay with the trade paperback until I tried to use it. It's not durable at all. This is going to be much better made. And then I found, on that science fiction cart, I found a copy of Stranger in a Strange Land, of course, his masterpiece, where these two characters are grokking each other. I found this on the science fiction cart. These all came from one person's collection. They're all bent like that. They're all cocked. They were all sitting in a box or in a warehouse somewhere. But I also, on the clearance section, I found another copy of it with this thing up here. Just the same thing. I just found two copies of the same thing with this great old cover. I think by the time I found the second one, I was semi-comatose. So I don't think I remembered that I was simply buying a double. So I didn't do it. It was just... I know we all did that. And this was just the used book superstore. Yeah. And a lot of people who go to the used book superstore would say, what do you mean just? This is an enormous bookstore, but we've got plans. We've got plans that'll put this place to shame.
The only thing I've read by Heinlein is The Moon is a Harsh Mistress still.
Did you like it?
I did like it. Yeah, I read it twice. I read it first in high school. I at the time was reading like Adam Smith and Friedman and whomever, and I was like, okay, maybe I should try reading these fiction books. So I looked up the most libertarian novels ever published, and it was on there. So I'm like, oh, I'll try this. I didn't know who it was.
He wrote a thing called The Man Who Sold the Moon. You might actually like it until the end. You're not going to like the ending at all. Okay. No, because somebody learns his lesson about the evils of greed, and I think that's going to lose you. It's a perfectly healthy thing.
I'm just going to... Because if I start, I won't stop. I'll leave that alone. So this is Keyhole History. This is the Fighting Commodores, Convoy Commanders in the Second World War. This, I've never heard of this before, but I had to grab it the second I saw it. This stuff is so exciting.
Is each one a biography? Oh, no, it's different kinds of ships.
That's my impression, yeah.
That high-pitched squeal you hear is coming from a small town in Vermont. So in order to appease him, would you mind showing him the whole of the cover art? They don't even put anything on the back to block it. Oh my God. I did not see this book because I was busy.
So you can see the front there, first of all, if you want to see the ships there and the submarine. Yeah.
Look at this. They don't even obstruct it. You just get the whole painting. Amazing. Oh my God. I did not spot this.
Oh, and actually, that's what you like. Mark, I have another one for you coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, if the one thing that I saw is another Mark pick. I'm the one who's supposed to... Well, actually, Mark's probably squealing about the science fiction as well. Let's do more science fiction.
Not the Leo Strauss? carry on.
I got a lot more science fiction here to go through. Well, I found 2 Larry Niven collection of short stories, Tales of Known Space, in this design here, this Del Rey design, where they got Niven and just did everything of his looking like this. I found a few there, but his books have looked like everything over the decades. I also found A Hole in Space, another collection, totally different look there. Not a huge Niven fan, but I was drunk on all these science fiction and fantasy books.
I shouldn't have been driving after that, I think. Yeah.
I found another copy of Road Marks by Roger Zelazny with this great old cover. I'm pretty sure that the last mass market of this that I found, I sent away almost immediately to one of you. I found another of Catherine Kurt's Derini books. This is the first book in the Derini Chronicles. This was a mass market paper of the back of this copy. I'm slowly accumulating all of these with the great old covers. This is an alternate medieval Wales, in which there are still petty kings and petty war chieftains and whatnot, and all the medieval trappings of tapestries and songs by the fire and mulled wine. But there's also another race of humans that have a sort of small collection of superpowers, the Derini. And the one, I found a bunch of these at the Brattle, but their copy of this had a huge patch just missing from the cover, just torn off. So I found a clean one and grabbed it. Should I do a little more science fiction here? Well, I mentioned Lynn Carter. I found one Lynn Carter. There was a bunch there, but this one I haven't read. And it looks like it's fantasy. It says science fantasy. This is Outworlder. That's a terrific cover there. But I don't know what this is. Lynn Carter, it's not possible that anyone out there has read everything that Lynn Carter wrote, and I certainly have not. But this was totally new to me, so I grabbed it. Like I said, fine discriminatory self-control was frittering by this point.
So now we have more World War II on my end. This is The War in the Far East, 41 to 45, a military history by Basil Collier. And I was confused about 2 things when I saw this. First of all, it's 41 to 45, and usually if you're talking about the East, you can go back at least to 37, right? But happily, it doesn't get to 1941 until about 100 pages in. So it looks like it is covering more than that. But then also it says this person's the author of the Second World War, a military history. And I thought I had read every single volume history of World War II, and I haven't even heard of that before.
Why does it look that way? Is it an ex-library book?
I don't know. And it has
what is this covering on
also,
it?
I feel that it's textured. It seems like there's a band going through the middle, but it doesn't seem to be a library book. No.
Was he posing with a baby?
Of course you noticed that.
Not just a baby, but somebody's rump. Somebody didn't want to be in the picture.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to have to put up with a lot of that. But
I'm used to it by now.
Today we were traveling without the Bean. We did this book shopping without the Bean. A lot of our adventures this week, she will be along. Mm-hmm. Do I have more science fiction? Yes, I do. Okay, just a bit more. One other block to finish out the science fiction. I found an ace double. I did not know it was an ace double when I was getting it, but these were very old. They're very cheaply made paperbacks. Right now, if anybody is squealing, it's Michael K. Vaughan. I found an ace double where you open it, you start to read one science fiction potboiler, and then you finish it, and you flip it over, and you get another cover and a different story. I found this one here. It has Robert Moore Williams. Not really familiar with that author. The Star Wasps. As if the ones here aren't bad enough. But when you flip it over, you get this thing, Warlord of Kor, by Terry Carr, who will be known to every science fiction person out there as a great anthologist. Before Donald Wollheim showed up, before Gardner Dozois, absolutely did 36 volumes of the greatest science fiction, Terry Carr was the guy for anthologists. He read everything, knew everybody, could wangle the rights to anything for dirt cheap. So there are a million anthology volumes about here. I don't know that I have ever read any of Terry Carr's fiction. What a disillusionment it'll be if it turns out to be bad. He certainly is a great picker of fiction. Then I found two old favorites here that they were $1 each, so I could not let them go. This is Margaret Wander Bonanno, what I consider to be probably the greatest Star Trek novel ever written. This is Strangers from the Sky with this great cover there where you see our main characters. Mr. Spock and Kirk are in... Star Trek fans will know that is very early uniform style, and who's she? And the whole plot of this book is that the collective memory, everyone remembers when Earth made first contact with Vulcans, and it turns out that story isn't true. And somehow everyone's remembering it wrong. And this has now been shunted into alternate reality because in Star Trek, everything that's up on the screen is canon. I don't know why that is, except that it was born on the screen. And we famously have a screen canonical version of the first time humans met Vulcans. And it's not this. I would love to see this filmed. What a thing that would be. And then a great science fiction novel, one of my favorite science fiction novels, Startide Rising by David Brin. That I found it there. I wasn't going to leave it behind. I have other copies of this, but I absolutely will not buy copies of this tomorrow. I will not buy copies of this again this week. This is in perfect condition. This is a story about a future polity of humans. They are one of many intergalactic species. They're a very inferior, very junior species. How you judge your standing is how many lower species than you have you uplifted. And humans have only uplifted chimps and dolphins, not any others. And they certainly haven't made any uplift claims on other worlds. But they have made a discovery. Just before this book starts, they discover a mummy, a mummified alien that looks like it might, if it is what it looks like, unsettle all the superior claims of all the intergalactic species. They're all suddenly hunting this one human ship with human crew members and a chimpanzee who's on board as a scientific expert, and the humans aren't in control. The captain is a dolphin, Captain Krydike. I love the book, just love it to distract. I haven't read it in a few years, so I grabbed this.
I had no idea what to make of that when I read it the first time.
Did you like it? Did you like any of it?
Eventually.
Reading science fiction requires building those muscles.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just walk into it.
I thought it was very off-putting at first. But yeah, I came to like it.
Oh my God!
So here we have The Age of Surveillance Capitalism.
Was this at the used book superstore?
Yeah.
Damn, those science fiction cards, he got all the...
This came out, this is a few years old now.
It is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
And I've been meaning to get a hardback of this for a while, and I just don't, but I saw it for cheap there. Yeah, 2019 this came out. And this did really well when it came out, and she did the circuit, and I listened to the podcast, I watched all her interviews, and I saw it around. I never got it. I still haven't read it.
Oh, did she do the interview circuit podcast and all? I've only read the reviews, the written reviews of the book. Didn't
it make your end list?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I praised it like crazy.
And
I also did my usual Steve Donahue spade work. I don't just praise a book. I also get on to all the reviewers out there who are very lazy and like things like this. They would really like things like this. They don't want to look at something like that.
Yeah,
they really want to know, is this going to be worth it? Is this going to be worth it? Actually, funny enough, with you sitting right there, a lot of times now when I contact critics and say, I know this thing is huge, but I've never led you wrong. This is worth it. A lot of times, instead of saying, is it worth it? They will say, is this another Piketty? Because they don't want it. They don't want it to be. Thomas Piketty wrote a gigantic book, got reviewed everywhere, and it's unreadably awful. I think so anyway. Tell me you're not all right. So he's faulting not only the prose but the economics. I couldn't fault the economics. I didn't know anything of what the guy was saying, but the book was just a nightmare, and it was 1,000 pages long. I didn't make the rounds with that book. I never told anybody. I said I'm at sea in this thing, but Zubov's book, I praised it to the skies.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, and he found a copy. I would have got that. But I was busy with A.E. Van Vogt. Okay, well, you still got books to go, yes?
I have like 6 left. Yeah.
What about historical fiction? Okay, there we go. There's another gimmicky way that we can do this. We can do historical fiction. I found another copy of this, Donald Stanwood's The Memory of Eva Riker. This is a Titanic novel. It's I don't want to cast any aspersions here, and I don't want to be sued. Let's just say this novel, which came out when a certain director was a teenager buying up little mass-market paperbacks to read because he didn't like his schoolwork. Well, lots of teenagers would have read this book at the time. We can't tell for sure who might have or who might not have. This is a story of a woman who was a young woman in love with a young man on board the Titanic. And he was a vagrant. There was no records of him. And she survives and he does not. And she is, at the beginning of this book, she is saying, how does she put it? It's been 54 years. Because this was written 30 years ago. So it isn't 84 years. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. That's exactly the plot of this thing. And I got it because of this. I got it because of the gatefold cover. Because they don't make covers like this anymore. It's not the only time. I did that a couple of times here. And then this, I found Winds of War by Herman Wouk. I looked for the mass market paperback of War and Remembrance. I would love to find it. Maybe I'll find it tomorrow. Wouk, I'm sure, is still alive. Last time I checked, he was 150 years old and still writing books. And when he's good, he's really good. I worry that he will be completely forgotten, but when he's good, he's really, really good. And Winds of War is often really, really good. It's not the kind of big bloated thing you would think. Speaking of which, I also found a mass market copy of Space by James Michener. I had a hardcover of this for the longest time. I really like this book. Lots of it. I don't like the ending. But I really like this book. And I had a hardcover that I found at the Brattle. And then one of you did your song and dance. You started, I live in a book desert. I don't trust those wolves online. It's 300 miles uphill both ways to the nearest bookstore. And I really want that book. My grandmother died with it in her hands. They know how to play me.
You're easy, though.
I shipped it off. So now I have a mass market anyway.
I've only ever read Hawaii by Michener.
Hawaii's a good one.
Yeah. Anyway, so I have Edith Hamilton, The Greek Way.
Oh.
Yeah, I went back for this, actually. I didn't grab it the first time. And I haven't read this, so I've heard you praise it. So.
It's really, really good. Yeah. He went back for it while I was stuck like a fly on tar paper. Well, what other...
No, I went back when you went back to say hi to a dog.
It's true. That's true. I said that I was going back to look at the clearance wall, but there was a little dog there.
I thought you went back for that Mike Pence book. But,
I didn't have Frida with me. I'm not free to smooch with other dogs when Frida's with me, but she wasn't with me. I've got... Well... Okay, the only hardcover that I got today is also historical fiction. It's this. I found a beautiful copy with a plastic covering of Mason and Dixon by Thomas Pynchon, which I love to distraction. I think it's just incredible, just incredibly good. I found At Swim Two Birds by Flann O'Brien in this neat trade paperback. I don't have any. I have Flann O'Brien in ebook, but not in a trade paperback, and I just pick up off the shelf. Any other historical fiction? Oh, right. Okay. This as well. Through a Glass Darkly, which sold like griddle cakes when it came out. My God, it sold like crazy. And then the publisher brought it out in a big fat trade mass market paperback, and it sold even more. And they had a great gimmick. The second printing of this in mass market paperback has different colors. The covers are different colors. I only saw this one copy. I would like to think that I would resist getting this in hardcover. I loved it. I thought it was just an opulent historical novel. But if I see it tomorrow, if I see it this week in another mass market paperback, I might get a backup mass market if it's $1. But I don't think I want this in hardcover. And all I could think about when I saw this, I saw a bunch of other things. Phyllis Whitney, Rosamund Pilcher, Maeve Binchy. That clearance section of the used book superstore was Gina Stanier heaven. Every other book was a Gina Stanier book. I don't know if she's read this, but I love it. Absolutely love it.
Isn't there a sequel to that?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah,
the sequel's pretty good too. Yeah. That. All right. Let's.
Well, this is my last piece of fiction. This is The Last Hurrah by Edmund O'Connor, his great political novel, and I haven't read this either, and I should, for as political as I am.
You haven't read The Last Hurrah, which is the great comic political novel. But what about All the King's Men?
I've read All the King's Men. Okay. Yeah.
The great tragic.
I was very political at a very young age, and I had an uncle who got me to read that.
Am I going to continue?
Keep going, or
I've got quite a bit left here.
Yeah, then why don't you keep going? Yeah.
Let's get these out of the way. What else can we do? What other themes? there's Dr. November. It's a long way off, but I love John le Carré. We did a booktube event last November, Dr. November. I was one of the co-hosts where we read spy and espionage fiction, and I was really hoping, I was planning the whole time that I would go into Dr. November and just read all over the place. Instead, I spent a huge amount of time just rereading John le Carré, and that reminded me how much I love his old paperbacks. So I found Smiley's People. Again, the same person had these, and in the same conditions. And I found a Little Drummer Girl with the same kind of gatefold cover here. They just don't make them anymore. And the last of my gatefold covers was this, The Skull Beneath the Skin by P.D. James. I don't think this is number 9 in the series. I don't think I could get that lucky twice, but this also has a fold back cover. I love these things now that I'm just a consumer. When I was a bookseller, I hated them because there's no way to stop this from ripping.
Oh, sure.
Just no way not to do it. So I admit I bought them largely for their period art, but still.
Okay, so now I have more World War II.
Oh, man.
Maybe I'll do both.
He is coming out so much better than me in this book haul. He really is. Everybody's looking and saying, oh, so I don't know who this guy is because he doesn't have a channel, but he's a serious reader.
This is Flames Over Tokyo, the U.S. Army Air Force's incendiary campaign against Japan, 1944 to 1945. And last time I was here, I got a bunch of books on the campaign in Europe. I think maybe one on the one in Japan. So like Dresden, for example. So I'm happy to have this. And this has tons of great, of course I can't find it now, diagrams in it, detailing the planes and how exactly they... Oh, I just saw it. Loaded these up. So I haven't read this before, but it has a lot of great detail in it. So this is going to be fascinating. And of course, the incendiary campaigns over Japan killed more people than the atom bombs, right? And yet people don't tend to know a lot about this. Yeah, see, like...
Look at that.
Look
wow.
at that.
You don't see that in histories. That's incredible.
Yeah, give me that and some maps, and I'm going to be a happy camper. So that was a great find. And then here, this is the Battle for North Africa in 1940 to 1943. This is another volume I've never read before. There's been tons of stuff published on this, and just looking at the inside dust jacket, I was really excited at this first paragraph because it mentioned specifically that it's the story of an army forging itself into a superb fighting force. And that's part of what's so fun about reading about the Africa campaign is you see an army learning on its feet. You know, it's just thrown into this conflict that's already been going on for years on the continent. And it's a young army, and it's trying to find its footing, and it's fascinating.
And the German tank commands had more experience.
They did, yeah, and it was actually Germans. I mean, when you actually get to say Normandy, a lot of the Axis troops they were fighting weren't Germans at that point. They're actually fighting, you know, the Africa Corps.
You found a lot of very specific slice of World War II books.
Yeah, well, I've read...
He's read all the ones that are, that's why, because he wouldn't be interested in all
old keyhole stuff. That's kind of appeals, yeah.
Well, I'm running out of books here. There's one that I want to save for its own, just one by itself. So I guess we'll do, two murder mysteries. One, I'm pretty sure this is not number 9 in the series. I couldn't be that lucky. No, it's not. But this is The Death of D.L., the D.L. and Pascoe mysteries. This is, I believe that in America this was called Death Comes for the Fat Man, where briefly Reginald Hill floats the idea that maybe Andy D.L. will die, that maybe he'll have a heart attack. This is a richly deserved heart attack, or something like that. Of course, it's not going to happen. He's indestructible. But nevertheless, I love this book, and I'm a sucker for UK versions like that. But I did find a number 9. I found Deception on His Mind. I have this as an ebook. Of course, it's loaded on my Kindle. But I love the design of these Elizabeth George books, and this is number 9 in the series. And I found Vin at Revenant Reads is our resident Uber Viking fan. Has all the Viking books, loves them, has a Viking sword and a Viking helmet, I believe. And I found one of his favorite Viking books. This is My Fair Viking by Sandra Hill. I have a feeling that either she's going to release him soon or he's going to stop asking to be released soon, but one way or the other. I'm pretty sure that I've seen Vin talk about this endlessly. He's a big Viking fan. But I have one book left. I'm going to save it for its own entry.
Okay.
More Mark.
Yeah, I was going to say, most people will find this cover as exciting as that one, but Mark will like this. This is 25 Centuries of Sea Warfare by, Jacques Mordal. And he has a book I know on the French Navy during World War II. I haven't read it. And then another one,
more artwork.
I can't remember. Yeah, and this also isn't obstructed in the back. So you can see how it spills over like that. But this covers a huge amount of time. I mean, it does Jutland.
Wow. Oh my God. And there are
it goes to Battle of Midway. There's illustrations. Yeah. Goes back quite far, so this is going to be a lot of fun.
And on the cover here, you see a boat pulling away from a wrecked ship, and that officer right there is Mark Richardson. But since he's from Vermont, he's not saying, row, row, row. Since he's from Vermont, he's just saying row, and if they look up, he says, what? I already said it. The minimum number of words when you're from Vermont. He's just the one row is all you get. But this as well.
Oh, yes, and I'll do this now. This is Admiral of the Ocean by Samuel Eliot Morison, his biography of Columbus. So
that's beautiful.
This is a nice copy volume too. Yeah, and it's in perfect condition. I know. I forgot to take the sticker off this one. I have read this before, and I have the other copy that I don't know. Look, it's got the gold instead of the blue. But this is in perfect condition, so I grabbed it. I give it to my brother or something.
I didn't look at his purchases when we each had a big, huge box when we were staggering out of the used book superstore, and I didn't look at your purchase. I had no idea they were so Mark Richardson heavy. Jeez. He's finagling for an invite up to Vermont. That's what he is. And I'm going to finish up with the greatest book that I got today. This is The Loch by Steve Alden, the author of Meg. This is his book about the Loch Ness Monster. It is a modern classic. I have read this many times. I have owned it many times. As soon as I saw it today for $1, I realized I didn't have a copy. So I grabbed it.
Has he done many non-Meg books?
Not lately, no. Meg will
paying.
It'll pay good dividends. Although I should point out, I always point this out, I might as well do it now, not to be a buzzkill, but there is no monster in Loch Ness. Because there's no such thing as a single monster. You need a breeding population. And every theory that is put forward for what the Loch Ness Monster is would make it an air-breathing creature, which means that you would only have to sit anywhere on the periphery of Loch Ness, as I have done for hours at a time, reading, probably one of the books on this pile here. If you sat there for even 20 minutes, you would see pods of these things surfacing to breathe. And you don't, and no one ever has.
Hasn't it frozen, too?
Yeah, to mention the fact that the loch is frozen solid several times in geologic history. No, what you're seeing is this thing called a sturgeon. And once again, he might as well be here in this hall. Once again, Mark Richardson will know what that is. Once upon a time, the mighty Merrimack River right here in New England was called the Sturgeon River. A sturgeon is a freakishly huge and knobby, weird fish. When you look at it, a whole sturgeon, which would be almost the length of this room, you say, all right, well, that's one ugly fish. But you won't think you're seeing a fish if you just see its back when it's moving under murky water. You won't think that. You'll think you're seeing something else, and that's what everyone has thought. I'm sure that there are sturgeon in Loch Ness. They can travel between the loch and the ocean. I'm sure that there are. But there are no monsters in Loch Ness. But, it doesn't matter.
I swam in Loch Ness for a bottle of whiskey, scotch, from a tour guide.
Nessie could have got you.
And that's it. Yeah, that's all I have to say about it.
You swam in I have not swum in
I don't know. That legend got me a free bottle of scotch. So,
I assume the tour guide was a man.
Yeah, he was wearing a skirt. I don't know why, but
classic groundskeeper Willie line.
That's what I was going for.
She needs a bit of groundskeeping. That was a little taste for you of what this whole week is going to be like, which is the two of us are going to crack each other up without needing to go through with the whole joke explaining thing. I guess we finish each other's sentences.
Oh, no.
I was joking with him that all week long, every shop proprietor is going to think, oh, this is your little bit on the side. And because I'm old and really don't have much else going for me, I'm not going to disillusion anybody. I'm just going to let them think that. I think we have some antiquing planned tomorrow.
We do. I'm not helping my case.
No, he's not.
We were looking at houses on the way back. We were.
But there you go. That is the used book superstore. This is the week that we have kicked off.
Yeah. This is us warming up.
This is
doing
just a
something
warm-up.
we had done before. We knew we loved the location and we would find things.
And I think the plan is cementing for even more book shopping tomorrow.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
It's a whole week. We'll see. But I've promised that I'm going to film it all.
Yes, I'm sorry I'm taking
all.
away your 5 videos, but if you get a few hour-long book hauls...
You might be able to master a basic editing program so that we could do a vlog. You might be able to do that. Yeah. Stitching together little bits and pieces.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't thought about that.
I can't do it. But tomorrow, if we do what we're planning tomorrow...
Put it on my list. Yeah.
Yes, you put it on your list. I gave him. He has a list of chores when he's here. But if we're doing what we plan tomorrow, it'll be all day and it would make a great vlog. We'll see. If not, there'll be plenty of pictures and videos and whatnot. But we're going to wrap this up for now and walk the bean and eat. Maybe even a drop of wine.
Perhaps a John Wayne clip or two.
The tiny bit of interest that they had already is now gone. Well, but we'll be back.
Yeah, You'll
get plenty of other book hauls from us this week. So we'll see you then.
Thanks, BookTube.